Thinking and Intelligence, Chapter 7. Cognitive Psychology. Cognition, most simply, is thinking. It encompasses the process associated with perception, knowledge, problem-solving, judgment, language, and memory. Cognition. Sensations and information are received by our brains, filtered through emotions and memories, and processed to become thoughts. So information, sensations, 2, emotions, memories, 2, thoughts. Concepts and prototypes. How does the brain organize information? Concepts are the categories of linguistic information, images, ideas, or memories. They're used to see relationships among different elements of experience. Can be complex and abstract, the idea of justice, or concrete, types of birds. Prototype is the best example or representation of a concept. Example, Mahatma Gandhi would be a prototype for the category of civil disobedience. So in 1930, Gandhi held a group in peaceful protest against a British tax on salt in India. Natural and artificial concepts. Natural concepts create naturally through either direct or indirect experience. Example, our concept of snow. Artificial concepts defined by a specific set of characteristics. Example, properties of geometric shapes like squares, triangles, etc. Schema, a mental construction consisting of a collection or relative concepts. When a schema is activated, we automatically make assumptions about the person, object, or situation. Role schema makes assumptions about how individuals in certain roles will behave. What assumptions come to mind about a librarian? Event schema, the cognitive script. A set of routine or automatic behaviors. Can vary widely among different cultures and countries. Dictate behavior, make habits difficult to break. Example, when riding in an elevator, we automatically stand facing the door. Event schema. Event schemas are difficult to change because they are automatic. When we receive a text, our event schema is to pick up our phone and reply. The problem is that this automatic reaction will arise even when situations when it is not safe to reply. Texting while driving is dangerous, but it is a difficult event schema for some people to resist. Research suggests that the event schema of regular checking our phone makes it increasingly difficult to resist picking it up while driving. Language. Language is a communication system that involves using words and systematic rules to organize those words to transmit information from one person to another. So components of a language. There's a lexicon, the words of a given language. Grammar, the set of rules that are used to convey meaning through the use of the lexicon. The phoneme, a basic sound unit, a, e. Morphemes, the smallest unit of language that conveys some type of meaning. Language is constructed through sematics and syntax. Sematics is the meaning we derive from morphemes and words. Syntax is the way words are organized into a sentence. Language development. Noam Chomsky proposed that the mechanisms underlying language acquisition are biologically determined. Language develops in the absence of formal instruction. Language acquisition follows similar patterns in children from different cultures and backgrounds. Critical period. Proficiency at acquiring language is a maximal early in life. Being deprived of language during the critical period impedes the ability to fully acquire and use language. The case of Genie. The effects of language deprivation during the critical period can be seen in the case of Study Genie. Was found at the age of 13 after being raised in neglectful and abusive conditions. Grew up with virtually no social interaction and was unable to speak when found. With help, Genie was able to acquire vocabulary, but was not able to learn the grammatical aspects of language. Problem-solving strategies. Trial and error. Continuing to try different solutions until problem is solved. Algorithm, step-by-step problem-solving formula. Heuristic, a general problem-solving framework. Shortcuts, a rule of thumb. Working backwards, begin solving the problem by focusing on the end result. Breaking large tasks into series of smaller steps. When do people use heuristics? When one is faced with too much information, when the time to make a decision is limited, when the decision to be made is unimportant, when there is access to very little information to use in making the decision, when an appropriate heuristic happens to come to mind in the same moment. Puzzle 1, Sudoku. Problem-solving abilities can improve with practice. Many people practice every day with puzzles such as Sudoku. Spatial reasoning. Connect all 9 dots with 4 connecting straight lines without lifting your pencil from the paper. So that's the Sudoku answer and the line answer. Pitfalls to problem solving. This is a quote by Albert Einstein. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Mental sets. Persistence is an approach to a problem in a way that has worked in the past. A set of way of looking at a problem. Becomes a problem when the way is no longer working. Functional fixedness is the inability to perceive an object being used for something other than what it was designed for. Imagine you have a candle, thumbtacks, and a box of matches. You need to mount the candle on the wall and light it. What will you do? Very few people will think to use the box as a holder for the candle, which can be tacked to the wall because they are fixed in this normal function. Biases. Knowledge and reasoning are used to make decisions. However, sometimes our ability to reason can be swayed by biases. Anchoring bias is a tendency to focus on one piece of information when making a decision or solving a problem. Confirmation bias. Tendency to focus on information that confirms your existing beliefs. Hindsight bias leads you to believe that the event you just experienced was predictable even though it wasn't. Representative bias, tendency to unintentionally stereotype someone or something. Availability heuristic, a tendency to make a decision based on an example, information, or recent experience that is readily available to you, even though it may not be the best example to inform your decision. Classifying intelligence. What is intelligence? Psychologists have come up with many different ways to define intelligence. So Charles Spearman believed intelligence consisted of one general factor called G, focused on the commonality amongst various intellectual abilities. Raymond Cattell divided intelligence into 2 components: crystallized intelligence, acquired knowledge and the ability to retrieve it, knowing facts; fluid intelligence, the ability to see complex relationships and solve problems, knowing how to do something. Tetraedic theory of intelligence. Robert Sternberg's theory defines 3 types of intelligence: practical, creative, and analytical. So creative intelligence is imaginative and innovative problem solving. Analytical intelligence is academic problem solving and computation. Practical intelligence is street smarts and common sense. Multiple intelligence theory. Howard Gardner proposed that each person possesses at least 8 intelligence: linguistic, logical mathematical, musical, bodily kinesthetic, spatial, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturalistic. Inter- and intrapersonal intelligence are often combined and called emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand the emotions of yourself and others, show empathy, understand social relationship and cues, and regulate your own emotions and respond in culturally appropriate ways. Creativity, the ability to generate, create, or discover new ideas, solutions, and possibilities. Creative people usually have intense knowledge about something, work on it for years, look at novel solutions, seek out advice and help from other experts, take risks. Creativity is often thought as one of the abilities to engage in divergent thinking. Divergent thinking is thinking outside the box, used when more than one possibility exists on a situation. Convergent thinking is the ability to provide a correct or well-established answer or solution to a problem. Measures of intelligence. Measuring intelligence can come in many forms. A person's intelligence quotient, IQ, is a score earned on a test designed to measure intelligence. How do psychologists ensure that the tests function as valid measures of intelligence? The Stanford-Binet Intelligence Scale. Early 1900s, Alfred Binet developed an intelligence test to use on children to determine which ones might have difficulty in school. Louis Terma, a Stanford psychologist, modified Binet's work by standardizing the administration of the test and testing thousands of children to establish a norm. Standardization, the manner of administration, scoring, and interpretation of results, is consistent. Norming, giving a test to a large population so data can be collected comparing groups such as age groups. The resulting data provide norms, referential scores used to interpret future scores. Standardization and norming ensure that new scores are reliable. Alfred Binet. French psychologist Alfred Binet helped to develop the intelligence, which page is from a 1908 version of the Binet-Simon intelligence scale. Children being tested were asked which face of the pair was prettier. Measuring of intelligence. Welcher Adult Intelligence Scale, WAIS. David Welcher's definition of intelligence is the global capacity of a person to act purposely, to think rationally, and to deal effectively with his environment. In 1939, Welcher developed a new IQ test by combining several subtests from other intelligence tests, tapped into a variety of verbal and nonverbal skills, one of the most extensive used intelligence tests. Walter's Intelligence Scale for Children, WISCV, is one of the many versions used today that test verbal comprehension, visual spatial, fluid reasoning, working memory, and processing speed. Flynn effective, after years of use within schools and communities, periodic recalibration of the WAIS led to an observation known as the Flynn effect, the observation that each generation has significantly higher IQ than the last. The bell curve. Results of intelligence tests show the bell curve. In psychological testing, this graph demonstrates a representative sample, normal distribution of a trait in the human population. The representative sample is a subset of the population that accurately represents the general pop. Usually requires a large sample size. IQ bell curve. The average IQ score is 100. Standard deviations. Describe how data are dispersed in a population. One standard deviation in IQ testing is 15 points. A score of 85 is one standard deviation below the mean, the average. Any score between one standard deviation above and below the mean is considered an average. 82% of the population have an IQ score between 85 and 115. Intellectual disability. 2.2% of the population has an IQ score below 70 are considered intellectually disabled. Exhibited defects in intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior, formerly known as mental retardation. The 4 subtypes are mild, moderate, severe, and profound. The source of intelligence. Nature or nurture. Nature perspective is that intelligence is inherited from a person's parents. The heritability of intelligence is often researched using twin studies. Identical twins raised together and identical twins raised apart exhibit a high correlation between high scores than siblings or fraternal twins raised together. Nurture perspective. Intelligence is shaped by a child's developmental environment. If parents present child with intellectual stimuli, it will reflect the child's intellectual level. Most psychologists now believe levels of intelligence are combined of both. Range of reaction. Theory that each person responds to the environment in a unique way based on his or her genetic makeup. Genetic makeup is a fixed quantity. Whether you reach your full intellectual potential is dependent upon environmental factors. Genetics and IQ. The correlation of IQs of unrelated versus related persons reared apart or together suggests a genetic compound to intelligence. Learning disabilities. Learning disabilities are cognitive disorders that affect different areas of cognition, particularly language and reading. Specific neurological impairments, not an intellectual development problem, often affect children with average to above average intelligence, exhibit comorbidity with other disorders. Dysgraphia. A learning disability resulting in a struggle to write legibly, having difficulty putting their thoughts down on paper. Dyslexia, the inability to correctly process letters. Most common learning disability in children may mix up letters within words and sentences called letter reversal. These written words show variations of the word teapot as written by individuals with dyslexia. So this is going to be it for Chapter 7. Thank you and have a good rest of your day.